Mothers are powerful, but they're also vulnerable in having something so precious to protect. Mothers can't always protect their children from harm. The writer Elizabeth Stone says, making the decision to have a child is momentous. It is to decide forever to have your heart go walk around outside your body. The story of Demeter and Persephone offers a mythical framing of what we know to be a terrible truth, the grief of a parent that knows no bounds. In 1870, Julia Ward Howe, one of our foremothers, wanted to harness the power of this love to create a lasting change in this world. With the air still thick with the sorrow and destruction of the American Civil War, Howe's response to the news of fighting beginning in Europe was understandably one of renewed horror. A well-known poet, abolitionist, and activist for the rights of women, Howe put her passion into words and published her appeal to womanhood, which was first given in the spring and would go on to be known as the Mother's Day Proclamation. Here are our foremothers' words, given a century and a half ago. Arise, all women who have hearts, whether your baptism be of water or of tears. Say firmly, we will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies. Our husbands shall not come to us reeking with carnage for caresses and applause. Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity and mercy and patience. We women of one country will be too tender to those of another country to allow our sons to be trained to injure theirs. From the bosom of the devastated earth, a voice goes up with our own. It says, disarm! Disarm! The sword is not the balance of justice. Blood does not wipe out dishonor, nor violence indicate possession. As men have forsaken the plow and the anvil at the summons of war, let women now leave all that may be left of our homes for the great and earnest day of council. Let us meet first as women to bewail and commemorate the dead. And then let us solemnly take counsel with each other as to the means whereby the great human family can live in peace, each learning after their own time the sacred impress not of Caesar, but of God. In the name of womanhood and of humanity, I earnestly ask that a general Congress of women without limit of nationality may be appointed and held at some place deemed most convenient and at the earliest period consistent with its goals to promote the alliance of the different nationalities, the amicable settlement of international questions, and the great and general interests of peace. Ancient Mother, I hear you calling. Ancient Mother, I hear your song. Ancient Mother, I feel your laughter. Ancient Mother, I taste your tears. The sorrows of the world that pull at our souls all have a beginning in the broken heart of a person. Every siren, someone's worst day, someone's greatest pain. Yet there is at least one thing every single sorrow-filled day has in common. Somewhere on that day, a baby is welcomed into this world with joy. There is never a day, no matter how terrifying, no matter how horrifying, no matter how awful the news is, that doesn't also include the emergence of mothers, fathers, of parents and grandparents, and aunts and uncles, and life's ever-changing joy. Every day, without exception, no matter how hard, there is somewhere a baby born. Reflecting on her decision to have children, the late Gilda Radner wrote this: "To create a human being is a huge thing. It's huge and it's scary, but it is an act of ultimate optimism." This infinite optimism keeps humanity alive, not only because more babies are brought into the world, but because more parents are. To become a parent is to create out of nothing an obligation. It is to say, I am going to raise a child into adulthood. It says there is something in this world that is yet good. It says there is something worth nurturing, something worth raising a child to experience. Certainly, people fail in these obligations. Parents falter, make mistakes, wish for do-overs. But most do not fail. Most dedicate the rest of their lives to loving someone more than they love themselves. Nurturing children is one way we learn to treasure this world. Earlier, you were invited to reflect on someone who's mothered or nurtured you. Now we invite you to think of what qualities or gifts make that person a nurturer for you. Which of their qualities can you strive to bring to your relationships? Is it kindness? Is it discipline? Courage? Wisdom? Patience? Thoughtfulness? Generosity? What has nurtured you? For even as we become parents, we yet remain children. I was grown before I realized what a sense of humor my mother had. Because it wasn't cool to know that then. And her open-hearted bravery to put up with such a child as me, I was not easy to mother. We look now not to the past, but to the world around us. A mother's personal grief will always be exactly that, in its sorrow and in its loneliness. But it may also be a powerful tool to create movements to save those who can still be saved. So now we look to a new Mother's Day proclamation, to embrace the needs of our times, guided by the examples of mothers and others who resist violence, cowardice, and oppression in our own time, that we may recommit ourselves to the core of the resistance spoken by Julia Ward Howe a century and a half ago. For it is yet the mothers, the nurturers in our own time, who do rise up, who show up against the atrocities of humanity, to resist hatred and violence done to bodies and to the souls of our children and to one another. For indeed, there is no such thing as other people's children. All children are ours. And so it is that we lift up good words and good work of the mothers among us in this, our moment in history, as we give voice to a new Mother's Day proclamation. As I go through this proclamation, there will be a few moments that you are asked to respond. And your response is this: may this be our resolution in heart and in practice. Let's try it. May this be our resolution in heart and in practice. May this be our resolution in heart and in practice. Arise, all who have hearts, whether conscripted by passion or despair. We say firmly we will no longer allow our souls disposed to empathy to be redirected by irrelevant desires that feed commercial avarice on the backs of our siblings in this struggle. We refuse to disregard the atrocities committed in the name of our comfort. May this be our resolution in heart and in practice. You don't stop being a parent if your child dies, declares Lucia McBath, the mother of Jordan Davis, who was murdered at age 17. Lucia joined with all too numerous others to create Mothers of the Movement. These are the mothers of adults and children killed by law enforcement and vigilantes through racist profiling and policing in the United States. These women urge us to acknowledge that Black lives matter and to rectify the legacy of persecution that led to the deaths of their children and continues unabated to this day. And so we proclaim that we will not be deluded by the perversion of our human need for safety into a tool of subjugation. Our protectors shall not come to us reeking with carnage for caresses and applause. May this be our resolution in heart and in practice. In the fall of 1981, a group of women marched to Greenham Common in Berkshire, England, to protest the imminent storage of nuclear missiles at the site. Their communication with on-site leadership stated, "We fear for the future of all our children and for the future of the living world, which is the basis of all life." They went on to establish a peace camp at the base, where the women engaged in daily non-violent protest for years, until the missiles were removed. The ripples of this long-lived protest include an echo every time we sing Building Bridges, for they composed that chant in the camp at that time. And so we proclaim that our children shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity and mercy and patience. We of one country will be too tender to those of another country to allow our children to be trained to injure theirs. May this be our resolution in heart and in practice. In recent years, climate change and despotism have created the largest refugee crisis since World War II. As countries around the world struggle with the moral and logistical issues of taking in those fleeing violence and famine, many organizations have stepped in to assist. One of these is called the Compassion Collective. It's a fundraising and advocacy group focused on their core belief that there is no such thing as other people's children. And so we proclaim that the devastated earth calls to us, awake, your greed will not protect you from its pillaging consequences. The remarkable sustaining grace of the land, which has become the weight of all human history, gasps for mercy. Shall we squeeze the life from this earth without regard for our own drought, devastation, and despair? No political boundaries. And neither should our concern for the very lives of our neighbors. May this be our resolution in heart and in practice. Between 1976 and 1983, Argentina was run by a military dictatorship. As many as 30,000 people were disappeared. Some of them were pregnant women whose babies were then given to military families. In response to this long nightmare, a movement arose. Every Thursday, 2 silent marches took place. Las Madres de la Plaza de Mayo, mothers who were looking for their dead children. And Las Abuelas de la Plaza de Mayo, grandmothers who were looking for their grandchildren. Las Madres have held their Thursday marches for 40 years. Some of the women are still marching today. Over 100 years old. As of 2014, the sustained commitment of Las Abuelas has resulted in finding 114 grandchildren. And so we proclaim that though we persistently forsake our common good at the summons of individual concern and comfort, let us now leave behind the illusion of partition. Let us commit here today to a steadfast practice of sustained counsel and covenant. Let us acknowledge the irreparable harm done, sibling to sibling. We must grieve our errors and our losses, commemorate the dead, dismissed, and stifled. Rising out of this anguish, we look to what still might be repaired, and yes, even begun again. May this be our resolution in heart and in practice. We look to the mothers who lead us, mothers of the movement, the Women's Peace Camp, the Compassion Collective, Las Madres de la Plaza de Mayo, Las Abuelas de la Plaza de Mayo. We look to learn from those who, even in their deepest grief and their deepest fear, lead us to a better way, if only we might follow. And so we proclaim that in the name of humanity, let a solemn and joyful collaboration begin. In lieu of a day or a moment of commitment, we will cultivate a habit of reconciliation. We pledge to put down the illusion of our separateness, that we may inhabit the truth of our abundant variation. Not in the service of the few, but for the benefit of all, and in this way may the great human family live in peace. May this be our resolution in heart and in practice. There is a deep love that gives us life, whether from our mothers, fathers, neighbors, relatives, our teachers, our friends. This is the love that sustains us, so that we might give life to others. Would y'all move this table right over here? Any of y'all. This morning, we invite you to have your hands blessed. We invite you to come forward and let those of us who serve with you and among you, that we might bless your hands for the work of nurturing that we all do every day of our lives. Earlier, we asked you to think about those who have nurtured you and whom you would like to honor today. We also want to honor you and all of the nurturing that you do in your family, in your neighborhoods, in this congregation, and in this world. As you arrive here, one of us will bless your hands with clean water, and another will help you dry your hands. As you come forward, feel free, if you would like to say the name of the person whom you wish to honor. As we come forward now for remembering, for blessing, and for life. even as we are blessed, may we bless. May we nurture those around us. May we nurture our Mother Earth. May we nurture also ourselves, that we may be more capable of giving and loving, for having tended well our own hearts. For those we remember today, for those we miss, we lift them up, we carry them in our hearts, knowing that their memory and their love lives on in us. For those that we became who we are by resisting, let us also bless them, for it is in resisting them that we have become who we are. May we go forward and bless this world, remembering that all children are our children, and all of us nurturers, all of us givers, all of us embracing. With this view, Mother's Day proclamation, you will find a copy of it in your order of service to take with you, to remind you of the vows we have made today, that the world may live in love and in peace, generation unto generation.